Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Piqued, a meetup for electronic music makers. I'm your host, Corey KO33 Luna, and on AV is Rich Dirty Wave M8 Hogben. Tonight we have our guests, VauxFlores and Synthesaurio. Each artist has prepared a unique video with their music. We will watch those back to back with a brief intermission between them, and then we'll go into our group interview where we can ask some questions, find out their unique perspectives on how they create their music, some of their history, and you can ask some questions in the stream as well, and we'll be able to ask those questions with the artists. So, welcome Travis, welcome Pablo. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having us.
Great. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, let's go into the music. Rich, please start Synthesaurio. Synthesaurio, everybody. That was amazing. Pablo, that was fantastic, man.
Thank you.
So before we get into some questions, I'll give you a quick little praise. Fantastic, man. And we want to get into the next set real quick. But overall, man, really fun, really upbeat, really wonderful. I love the combination of live guitar with your electronics that you're performing at the same time, and I'd love to know more about that performance and the video overlay you have as well. But before we get into that, let's go over to VauxFlores and see his video for the day, for the week, for the month. And Rich, would you please start VauxFlores? VauxFlores, everybody. That was awesome. Travis, thanks so much. That was really fun. It was minimal, and you really brought us in to listen to the small intricacies that you were performing.
Well, like I said in the chat, I'm honestly surprised that it worked.
Well, tell us a little bit about that setup. It looked very experimental.
I mean, I guess I have that reputation. So I can show you just because it's here. The main, I guess, thing that it was focused around. The only reason it's here because I was showing my kid earlier. So Muse receptor, so Bluetooth brainwave monitor, Once upon a time, I think that it was open source and it was kind of just, kind of developed for, if you wanted to actually do research, here's the code, you can blast it to whatever. It has since become a little bit more corporate to the point where now it comes with an app for meditation, where the point is you put it on your head and you clear your thoughts and you wait until you hear birds. And when you hear birds, you're relaxed. So finding the old SDK to actually get the data to stream was a little tricky. Um, but how it was going was basically it was just monitoring four brain waves, which was being streamed in this kind of roundabout way to my phone, and then from my phone to a private network to Max. In Max was basically just saying anytime that there is a peak in any type of specific brainwave, just to send out essentially just a bang as an audio signal, just basically just 0 to 1 blip. From there, I was headed out just over a Expert Sleeper's ES9, where it was just these little audio blips were then going just to just control voltage, just ones and zeros. That I then had running through just the little pink box thing was just an amplifier that was just bringing up the current enough to drive solenoids, which were on top of the bass, which was creating little pings and plucks and whatever else that was kind of driving the audio source for the rest of the patch. So that's kind of one side of it. But then the bass is actually going into the patch, which is then being used for just basically I was using an envelope follower that was generating gates and envelopes to control other aspects. So as things were pinging, if you listen, there's kind of delays that are kind of slowing up and speeding down and all of that. And that's coming from the response of the actual bass and the solenoids being then processed by the modular. So not to go totally into the weeds, but yeah, experimental.
Well, this is definitely the place to deep dive into explanation and really let us tell us what's going on with everything. I think
I guess I am among my own, aren't I?
yeah, with Piqued, it's we're all enjoying this. We all like the deep dives. It's
That
pretty
was
awesome.
super interesting. I'm kind of curious. Have you used the I don't know the term, like the thing to measure the brain waves doing different activities and see if it has different patterns or...
That's the idea. And I can't say, I think as I mentioned in the chat, that was the original idea to get this in the first place, was to pretty much just, I mean, to measure both just what happens to my brain during improvisation. Because for a good portion of last year, I got into just playing bass, where it was the type of thing where no synths, no pedals, no whatever. It was just basically just a cable to the amplifier and that's it. And like as I've been doing that, it's like you notice, like I was noticing, it's like I'm just like finding different states of consciousness. Like I'm tapping parts of my brain that I don't normally use while I'm doing this. And of course, being that I live in Science Town, USA, it's like I have to study that. So the thought originally was to get this and basically plug it in and just record the data, and then just have some data scientist interpret it as to oh well, when you're playing it does this. But that has yet to happen, because being that I'm more of a hardware engineer as opposed to a data scientist, I immediately had to think of how can I make sound with this. And I guess the other thought of that was, so I did a couple of shows, just I guess back in October, where it was a road trip down to the Moog factory from New York and back, but kind of along the way, since it's a very long drive, played a show in Baltimore, played a show in North Carolina, and realized, I mean, so it's like, okay, I need to do the bass thing because that's what I wanted to do. But at the same time, considering I actually make electronics and was trying to sell them, it's like people need to know what they do. And I noticed I was having the problem of like, okay, I'm playing, I'm doing something, because this record that I was promoting was just nothing but solo bass. It's like, and now I need to stop and turn a knob. So by the time we got to Asheville, it's like, you know what? I need to figure out a way of like either freeing up a hand or having some sort of control over this everything. Then it's like, what if I just build like some sort of robotic hand that could actually like just take the place of my right hand, which can then control the patch and all of that. So that's where this kind of came from. It's like, oh yeah, I have a brainwave thing anyway. So
the idea is to eventually be able to play the bass with your mind while you do the electronics. That will be awesome.
I don't know about that. I mean, it's just how long and how many states of consciousness, how much peyote will I have to actually do to like sit there and concentrate to me, my X-Men, and bump, bump. I got Chameleon. So, I'm just down to wherever it takes it. I guess, one of my interests, other than, I guess, music sound or whatever, is technology, cybernetics, and all of that. So it's the thought of not necessarily, oh, we can make this an assistive device. Like, how can we actually harness, chaos from other aspects of our kind of our conscious and unconscious mind and bring that into, I guess, musical control or something.
Sounds pretty fun.
Yeah.
I'm getting some Lawnmower Man vibes now.
Science Town, USA.
That's awesome, man. That's really fascinating. Like, I would love that you're using this Bluetooth headset to use brainwaves. It's fascinating. I've never seen that I've never seen that device before. That's fantastic, and I love the explanation of how you're using it, and exploring the implications of the capabilities of it. And as you said, that's what a lot of technology really is how far can you push the boundaries of it? What can you do with it besides its mainstream marketability?
Mm-hmm.
And you're
And I
really
guess
using it on that way.
before it became a marketed meditation machine, back when it was actually more of kind of a research thing, there actually was a Eurorack module that interfaced with it. So you didn't need to beam it to your phone and then send it to Max or whatever. It was just straight Bluetooth to a module, and then from there, it was just being output CV just right from the actual, from the module itself. I think I'm trying. I hopefully I get the name right. I think it was I know it was an Irish artist by the name. I think his name was Daniel Mahoney. I played a show with him at a conference in Manchester in like 2016 where he was doing brainwave stuff, but completely different, like really lush ambient stuff. But same thing, just the same monitor, just sitting there very serenely, just generating these wonderful washes of sound, just as it just passively sat there. So
That reminds me of a German company that I can't remember their name right now. Music of Things or Musicians of Things. We had them on Peaked actually when we did before COVID happened. We actually had them at in here in San Francisco performing live for the audience, and they had a Bluetooth setup with I think a ring that was just like on your hand, and you could control
mhm.
certain aspects of it. And they're still around. They're still developing and created some updates. And I can't remember the name of it at the top of my head, but hopefully maybe Rich or I might remember, and I can throw a link down in there because they were fascinating. They put on a great set, and it was really fun to watch how they were using it. And there's another type of ring out there that controls pitch and things that our friend Electric Kitchen uses
Mhm.
in his sets. And again, I cannot remember the name of the tech that he was using. I don't remember the product name, but I know it's out there. And although I haven't used it myself, I've seen it performed live many times, and it's always fascinating.
I'm actually thinking one of my colleagues, he's from Thailand. He actually, lucky ducky, is just teaching 2 7-week sessions this semester. So he got to come back from Bangkok on February 6th while the rest of us were here in Ithaca starting in early January for winter term or whatever. But he had a device. So one of his things is conducting. So Bluetooth, the rings, but as he's conducting the ensemble, keeping time or pointing or whatever, it's also controlling the digital data of the patch. So it's electroacoustic, but the conductor is the one who's actually controlling the acoustics with gestures. So similar deal.
That's fascinating. Now, let's jump on over to Pablo and talk about your set a little bit. Pablo, tell us about your set tonight, what you're using, and how you came up with your composition today.
Yes. So I have been using a lot the Dirty Wave MA tracker. I used to use more like modular stuff, but then I kind of like just started to downgrade and eventually to try to make all the music there, which is really convenient because you can just carry that thing around. And it's very easy for me to make songs actually. So yeah, I mean, most of my music I have been composing it there, and then I just use the SP404 for like some effects. And I've been trying, like I used to play more like live music, like I used to play bass and guitar in bands. But then when I got dragged into the electronic music, I stopped doing that, and I like started doing more programming. But I've been trying to incorporate some more like live music instruments into my sets, and yeah, that's what I have been doing. And some of the visuals, like I've been experimenting with GLSL, and I use shaders to code that and just make it like audio reactive to the music.
Very cool. How did you? So you're using the M8 tracker for most of the set that you performed?
Yeah, I use it like for some of the stuff I recorded some instruments and then I just like sequence them, like slice it and that kind of stuff. But all the sounds came from the M8 and the guitar like part of it. The SP was just for like effects and stuff like that, like compression. Yeah.
And tell us about the video overlay. How did you perform that?
My original plan was to do like everything live, but I think that was like a little bit ambitious because when I started doing some tests with OBS and like other streaming like software, my computer was like struggling and it was kind of like messy. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna record like me performing the music, and then like I kind of like just play the video and then process the audio through the like visual set that I have, which I do everything pretty much on my iPad. It's very convenient to just carry that around and then change a little bit of the code and like some videos and stuff like that. And then like I just put it together in like a software, like a video editing software. But yeah, it was just like I used Luma Key to like get rid of the white and then just like overlay the visual stuff that I recorded. So yeah.
Very cool. That was really fun, really upbeat. And tell us a little bit about your musical background. You say you've also performed in bands.
Yeah, I mean, I started like when I was a teenager, like the typical punk dude that was like, oh yeah, playing bass in punk bands and stuff like that, and then moved to like alternative rock and then kind of more like indie rock. And then during the pandemic, I started doing electronic music just because, I mean, like bands were like not a thing, or it was just like I didn't really get together with groups of people to play. And then I started doing electronic music, and yeah, I've been like, I started kind of with ambient and that kind of stuff, but eventually I was like, no, I want to play more, something more upbeat, something more like that. And yeah, I started to just compose stuff, and like, I don't know, like I get a lot of influence from like kind of like the style that I have, like I have been trying to define my style a little bit. And I don't know, like I try to incorporate kind of like a little bit of reggaeton cheesy sounds with like some more like housey electronic and Latin percussions. So yeah.
Oh, fantastic! Yeah, it was. That's really, the pandemic has really given a lot of us a way to pivot in our creativity and make different decisions that we probably wouldn't have made if we didn't have isolation. And
Yeah, definitely.
it sounds like it's been I really enjoyed this journey that you've gone on in your electronic music journey.
Yeah, also I feel like in the Bay Area, I don't know, like I went a couple of times to Resident Electronic and like what's the name of it? Like those electronic open mics, which I don't know, it was like a good inspiration to like get more into visual stuff and like try different things in electronic music. And yeah, I feel like, I mean, like most of electronic artists is always like jumping from one thing to the other and like always changing the set, like but I don't know, like over the last couple of months I've been kind of more trying to stick with something, and I found DMA to be really like suitable for me. And yeah, I've been kind of like playing with that a lot.
One of our friends here, Frank Martin, who's probably might still be on the stream in the chats, he's one of the people who runs Resident. Have you been able to make it to any of the live shows?
Yeah, I've been there a couple of times, and also the ones that like they do, like before they started doing it in person again, that they do like a little bit live stream. Like I participated with them a little bit, and yeah, Frank Martin, like yeah, like I know that he's doing a lot like in the Bay Area, and that's like it's one of those persons that is always like promoting like new artists, which yeah, it's really cool that because I know that you also have been doing a lot of that, so it's really cool that you guys have been like keeping that, and yeah, all these like good like opportunities for like artists to just like
Yeah, because I met Frank Martin probably actually through Resonant Frequencies, which was another electronic music open mic here in the Bay Area, and I think they're still I think they're in between locations right now. But Resident kind of came out of that at the same time and was in San Francisco primarily, and has stayed in San Francisco. It was at the Laundry in the Mission District before the pandemic, and now it's at Noise Bridge in San Francisco, which I have yet to go to that live yet, but looks like a cool space.
Oh, it's a trip.
Nice.
I was at a conference in New York City over the summer, and just one of the attendees like, oh yeah, and I started my career in San Francisco, and I founded a place called Noisebridge. I'm like, you founded Noisebridge? So this guy, also, I guess his claim to fame was he invented the universal turn everything off remote. You don't know that? So it's like say you're in a bar, it's basically just it's a remote, you press the button and it just sends out a universal off frequency to turn off all TVs in an area or whatever. So
oh wow,
of that early .com whatever. So claim to fame, oh yeah, I founded a makerspace and also developed the remote that turns everything off.
Wow. That sounds like fun and trouble at the same time.
That's the best kind.
Very sneaky. Travis, tell us a little bit about your musical background.
Oof, my musical background. I've been doing it for a long time. Let's see. So probably started in with electronic music, which I love saying this because it makes me feel so old. Around the turn of the century. So let's see. Did my undergraduate at the Oberlin Conservatory. Finished that in 2004, and then after that, ended up in the Bay, Mills for a second, and then I think I was in the Bay for about 6 years or so. And then after that, just ended up moved to Costa Rica for a couple of years, and then won a big art thing, and ended up traveling, just doing museum stuff, and then ended up back in the States, and then finally now I'm in Ithaca. So it's been a bit of a trip, but my main background, I guess, I mean, I'd like to say that I played in bands, but where I grew up, there just wasn't enough of a population to actually have bands, especially bands into anything other than basically butt rock or metal or whatever. So just it ended up being just me in isolation in rural upstate New York with a 4-track tape recorder and just whatever I could to make whatever sounds I could hear in the early world of the internet as things kind of came through. Because if you went to a tape store, a CD store, or whatever, it would just be kind of top 40, whatever. So, at the same time, it's like, oh yeah, and there's this new website called Amazon where you can listen to 30-second clips of the techno section or whatever. And meanwhile, there's also the whole thought of just somewhere out in the middle of nowhere, there's these raves where people are in warehouses doing crazy drugs to whatever, and you'd see stuff on the news. Oh, there's a rave. It's crazy, scary, whatever. It's like, yeah, but they just don't come up here. So maybe kind of the allure for this this weird psychedelic dance party that's happening somewhere else kind of was the thing that kind of hooked me in. So yeah, I don't think I've ever actually made, or if I have made music with beats, it's something that I always kind of feel maybe a little too self-conscious about actually doing. So in many ways, I feel a lot of kind of my musical output or whatever is all the excuses and all the things that I've done to try to procrastinate from actually having to sit down and actually make this crazy psychedelic party music. But in the meantime, I've had fun. So Sorry, was that? I guess that was a roundabout explanation, but hopefully you got some facts out of that. So,
What was your first instrument?
first instrument, first instrument. So my family largely comes from the American folk tradition. So there was always, I guess, like the first instruments around the house were probably like Appalachian mountain dulcimers. But I mean, really, you just strum that and it sounds good. Hell, the name is it sounds sweet. It's the sweet sounding instrument. But first instrument for me was trumpet, which I played in elementary school, and then switched to bass in middle school. Just when they finally gave us the opportunity of playing in the jazz band. And keep in mind, the jazz band in upstate New York is like Dixieland, where you're just bouncing fifths. So, doon, 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 doon. It's great. We're playing oompa music. Uh, in the thought that every band of which there is none needs a bassist, so I'm gonna play bass, and then I'll have to be in the band. Not realizing that most of the other bands, whoever played bass, was just oh yeah, that's our friend. They can't play guitar so well, so they can be the bassist in the band or whatever. But that kind of became my main instrument. So yeah,
Oh
I'm
man.
a bassist by choice, not by punishment.
Being a bassist myself, it's a fantastic instrument, and I still love it.
Oh, I absolutely love it. I've actually been kind of nostalgic about. I mean, so I just turned 40. I guess 2 weeks ago, and thinking back about like just like, oh yeah, yeah, now that I'm at a stable place in my life, what are like the nostalgic things that like I would love to, oh yeah, I had that, I wish I had it again. One of which was well, the first was just my first camera, which was this neon orange monstrosity that thankfully through the world of eBay you can get for like $10 or whatever. But the other one was the bass when I was in the Bay Area that I sold for way too little for food one week. It's like I like put it on Craigslist like $200. Take this. It was what was it, an Ashbury, the rubber stringed bass or whatever. It's
Oh,
like
that.
yeah, that.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's like thinking back, it's like, yeah, I should have never sold that on Bay Area Craigslist for food. I should have just, it's like, but it's like I'm not going to use this. And now I'm thinking about it's like I miss that, and they're really expensive now. So
It's pretty amazing how all those all the older electronics kind of went out of fashion and then came back into fashion in the music scene about maybe like 15 years ago, maybe a little bit longer than that. No, maybe 15 years ago. Because I bought a TR-606 from a company called Bananas at Large in San Rafael here in California back in 2004, I think. And that I paid like $100 for it. And it's nowhere, and I don't know how it retails for at least twice, if not three times that much now, if you can find it. And it's ridiculous on how, just because of the popularity, how things have just spiked. Like I bought an SH-101 around the same time. I think it was like maybe $400, and now they resell for over $1,000 for an original. It's just ridiculous on how popular some of these things have gotten, and one of those pieces that as of nostalgia that I've always wanted, which I don't really need, right? But I loved what was it? Uh, there's a synth company that put out some these effects pedals. They were called Mod Effects by Alesis,
ooh.
and they made them once, never again. Around the same time, early 2000s, and they put out once some, and they got bought up, not too fast, but eventually they got bought up, and they've never resurfaced. I've found a few on eBay over the years. The one I still cannot get was the vocoder. Still can't get it, but I've got like almost everything else.
Let's see, just to check, those were the ones like the cheap plastic ones that you could connect via like serial port on the side or whatever.
Yes.
Oh yes, yes, yes. Or I mean, not to go down to whatever. Uh, during the I guess the height of the new metal phase when Ibanez was making these like really crappy new metal pedals that like at that point like right after everything had peaked, like yeah, you would
Mm-hmm.
like go to even a Guitar Center and they'd like $10, take this pedal, just get this thing out of here. And now you go online, it's like, why is this like, $200, $300 for a pedal that like, it used to be like $10 flash sale. Just please take this thing out of our site.
It's hilarious. Pablo, have you experienced anything like that?
Not really. Like, I mean, I remember because I also started playing bass, and I used to have this Fender Jaguar that it was like really pretty. And then when I moved from my hometown, I was like, oh, I need some money to move from my hometown, and I sold it. But I feel like you can still find like Fender Jaguars like at reasonable prices. But right now, kind of like since I feel like I just finished grad school and then I'm working and then I'm like, oh, I don't know where I'm going next. I've been trying to keep away from like buying like vintage electronics because I know that sometimes it's like, I don't know, like they use like a lot of space and like you spend like money on it. So I've been trying to like ignore all that and like keeping tiny devices. But yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the wonderful things I've really enjoyed with the advancements in technology is how small these devices can be and how powerful they are at the same time. Even teenage engineering has done phenomenal feats with putting so much into something that is literally the size of a computer keyboard and it's over $1,000, but it
Well,
does
check out
everything you want it to do.
the prop comedy. Boom, one of these guys.
Totally basically the same thing. The cell phone does so much. I one of my favorite apps that I downloaded back in 2018, no, maybe 2017, was Korg Gadget, and I think I paid $40 for the license fee, but it's fantastic. If you're laying about and you don't want to get up to go turn your synths on, you can just lie in bed and compose. It's pretty great.
Yeah, I actually got started in electronic music with like phone apps. I was like, yeah, I don't need an iPhone. I don't need that stuff. But then I saw the apps that iPhone has, and I just got into the Apple ecosystem. Like 2 years later, I already had an iPad, and then I was like thinking about buying a Mac. So definitely, like it's a really nice because most of the times the apps are like cheaper than the plugins, so it's really nice to have
Yep.
access to that stuff.
I have
It's
this
a great
picture
way.
from undergrad where it was I think it was before even Jitter came out. So we were using software called Isadora, which was kind of like pre-Jitter. And it was the type of thing where we had two G3s networked together for the processing power to actually work with just one video feed and like a little bit of manipulation, but like two huge CRT monitors like tied together and like these giant like turquoise computers. And I love showing the picture to my students in class. It's like, yes, all of this, all of the processing power here, again, comedy. This thing can handle it. When you're playing Pokemon, I mean, imagine having two computers networked together to be able to be like, oh, look, there's a Snorlax or whatever they're called or whatever. And they're like, oh, what? That's what computer music was? It's like, yeah, and that was 20 years ago.
Yeah, pretty amazing. Pablo, I'm curious. What did you study in college? What is your degree?
So, I mean, I'm from Mexico, and in Mexico, I did vet school because I wanted to be a wildlife vet. But then when I finished vet school, I was like, I don't know. And then I got into grad school, and then I did epidemiology. I did a master's in like preventive veterinary medicine, and then a PhD in epidemiology. And the last like 5, 6 years, I've been more like towards computer modeling and modeling infectious diseases and that kind of stuff, which has been also like a cool thing to transition into electronic music because a lot of the, I don't know, like a lot of the visuals and stuff that I do, like I use like coding environments. So yeah, I just got very immersed into computers in the last 5 years.
It's pretty inherent. And I think a lot of us who are into electronic music are a lot of us, not everybody, has some type of background in technology, working with coding or something like that. And a lot of us end up getting into electronic music. And I think that kind of goes hand in hand with the whole technology aspect.
Yeah, I feel like it's also like a like a very like, well, in a lot of cases it's like a personality thing, because I don't know, like once that I found that I could do all of these things with programming for my work, I was like, oh, you mean that I could just like do everything behind a computer and don't have to be in the field like all day? And then I kind of like started getting more into that. And in music it was kind of similar for me, because I mean, there's nothing that beats like playing in a live band and like seeing like live instrumentation. That's always like really special. But like just being able to like compose your music and layer the stuff and like just jam by yourself and experiment by yourself, like I don't know, it's like a whole different experience, which is kind of cool.
I think so too. Travis, what's your perspective on experimentation of electronic music by yourself?
Ah, good question. What is my opinion on experimental or experimentation in electronic music by myself? I mean, phew. I mean, I would say by virtue, it's just kind of what I do. I mean, it's with the exception of just projects that I've worked on in consultations, just with other projects or whatever. I mean, it's for me, I guess as the composer, like who working primarily with electronics, that's kind of my thing. At the same time, though, considering that like a big portion of my output right now is also designing instruments, physical instruments. Part of it is that, it's this weird kind of, I guess, just parallel idea where I am designing instruments, I'm experimenting, I'm making sounds by myself, but at the same time, I'm also making them either available for purchase or through public domain or through whatever, where it ends up being this tool that somebody else then takes, and it can be the type of thing where sometimes I hear what they've done with it, other times I don't. It's just kind of this tool that kind of goes out into the world, so it becomes, I don't want to say kind of networked experimentation, but kind of just independent little nodes of kind of like the same idea or the same instrument, the same sounds that kind of were created as this sounds weird if I combine this in my studio, that somebody else has made and is using somewhere else, and I have no idea what they're doing with it. And it could sound the same, it could sound different. So I don't know. I'm going down a bit of a thinking hole here, but no, I
Is
mean, yeah.
um, on that note, I feel that there's there's implications that when you design an instrument, you have an idea of what you want it to do, and then the artist will take it into places that you didn't know it could go. Back in 2019, we had Andrew Belt, who created VCV Rack, come by San Francisco. We hosted him at Piqued when we used to have it live, and we had a great turnout. And he did his wonderful explanation and showed these great presentations with VCV Rack, what it can do. And we then had an artist after he was done come on, who's based in LA. I don't remember his name at the moment, and he did a whole set for like half an hour just on VCV Rack on his laptop. And I'm sitting next to Andrew, and throughout the set, he goes, "I didn't know you could do that." Like the guy who created it didn't know that you could do the things that this artist was doing with the tech that he developed. And to me, that's so fascinating to hear that from the developer.
Oh, that's really cool. I don't know. I kind of find, at least with some of the stuff that I've built or I've designed, I'm probably the least creative person using it. Maybe I'm just self-conscious, like, yeah, I know the parameters, I've designed the parameters, I know that this goes, and maybe it's just also the thought that, like, when you're designing it, you know what every single knob is going to do. You've mapped it out, you know what the tolerance are, you know what the variables are, you know what the resistance is. But then it's the type of thing where I'll just have something just like, that I'm working on just kind of up or whatever. And my daughter will walk into the room and like, just like, oh, what are you doing? Check this out. And like, just starts playing like, oh, that sounds so much cooler than anything that I have done with it. And you're 8. Like, is this just that like I'm just not creative with with the use of my tools, or is it just that I didn't think about like kind of this, I don't know, this degree of chaos or the degree of otherness that's coming in and taking this tool and doing something else with it?
I think there's different aspects of how we think about and how we approach performance. Say we go with Eurorack. One of my best friends and collaborators, Lenny Hamaker, who also goes by the artist name Atelian, he and I will get together every once in a while. We'll jam, and we'll take or we'll just send each other audio files and pictures of what we're playing with at home. And we have similar equipment. Well, obviously, we have different models here and there, but overall, I'll send him some pictures, things like that, and he'll look at it and get back to me and go, "You patched it in a way I would have never thought of doing." And it's that mentality that is just the individual of, this is my approach to it. This is what I thought of when I first saw it. So it's definitely a combination of your creativity and also a little bit of naivety, I would think, maybe coming from maybe your daughter's perspective of not knowing what it is and just looking at these knobs and wires and starting to play around and have fun.
Mm-hmm. And I think she kind of knows what it is, but just by virtue of having grown up around it. But it's like, oh, it's one of those things. Here, I'm gonna. Now the big thing is just when she's home and I'm soldering on something, it's always can I help? It's like, here, I'm
That's
gonna hold
cool.
this, you can hold that, and it's like you just want to see this stuff melt. But every once in a while, we've had this one synth that she's been working on for I'm gonna go for since 2021. It's the type of thing where it'll be like okay, like, you ready? Here, let's pull it out. Well, do one thing, do a second thing, and then it's like, can we watch a video now? I'm bored. It's like, you asked me specifically to do this. Now, like, pivot off to something else. So
That's great.
we'll finish it eventually.
I mean, it's not like she's young, and I feel like keeping young kids entertained, like, it's a challenge, but it's really cool that like she just comes to you and like asks you for that, and you can like like bond over that kind of things. That's pretty cool.
No, I mean, for those looking to go the whole parenting thing, raising your kid in a college town is a whole lot of fun. Just because, like, it's the type of thing where, I mean, if it's not for the fact that it's like, oh yeah, hey, we're taking a field trip to mommy and dad's mom and dad's work where we're going to learn about this today, but also it's just like a good portion of the other parents in town are all various faculty and staff or whatever. So it's the type of thing where if you have a play date, like, so what do you do today? It's like, oh, we worked in a dark room. What did you do today? Oh, we were working with plant pathologists. It's like, working with plant pathologists. Okay. So I don't know. It's been fun to be here. So
That's awesome. It's really fun for me being of a similar age to you, Travis, but not having kids, but watching so many of my friends have kids and being around them and seeing how they are learning and developing as they grow. It's fascinating to see. I love seeing it. A buddy of mine I used to work with, I had his kid over in my studio back in maybe 2018. I think he was 6 at the time, and I just hooked up all my stuff in the studio so they could just come in and play with everything. And neither of them knew what anything was, but they had a ball. They just had a great time just pressing buttons and knobs and keyboards, and we had a great time just jamming, just doing whatever. It was so fun. And the kid, and I gave this my friend's son a pocket operator. I don't remember which one specifically. It was a beat maker of some sort, and the kid learned how to program it on his own. It was fantastic. I was very impressed. And simultaneously, Needham Eric Needham, who does Needham Woodworks, he's got a daughter, and I think because he's a musician and she's always around, the like other musicians, and his music and synthesizers, I think she's also picking up on that stuff as well, and she's getting bass lessons and things like that. And I think it's really great that that the children of these parents who are already into these things are picking up the technologies, working with it, and picking it up really quick. And to me, it's just one of the greatest things to see.
We had a bit of an adventure a couple of years ago where it was so my wife also she's an art professor at Cornell. She does a lot of stuff with live stop motion animation. And so we were playing as a duo at at a festival in DC, the Sonic Circuits Festival, and it was the type of thing where I think we had already moved to Ithaca, and it was like we had driven down, we couldn't find a babysitter, so we were gonna have our friend meet us at the venue and like take our daughter out for ice cream or something so we could play our set. Thankfully, it was one of the earlier sets to not have it be this loud noise thing like in just small kid in the venue or whatever. Issue is that our friend got stuck in traffic on the Beltway. So, the promoter is like, I have 10 acts tonight. Like, you guys have to go on now. I don't care about your babysitter. So, like, we tell her, like, just stay right here and we're going to do this and, like, you be fine. And next thing you know, we were doing kind of stuff with like just at this point we were using photosensitive sculptures. So it's like this weird kind of just like these like fuzzy things hanging from the ceiling, each one with a photo sensor in it, going to like a master synth or whatever. Next thing you know, I think she was like 4 or 5 at the time. Tiny creature just kind of like going up to the audience and handing the sculptures to people and like showing them how it works and everything. And it's like, okay, this solved itself. Kid is she's part of the band now. She's just she's kind of picked up on like like mom's doing her thing. I have this. I'm going to hand this out. We're going to do this or whatever. And that went well, except then the next time that she was at a show of mine was in DC, or not in DC, was in New York City, where, I'm about to go and she's like, so what am I doing on the set? Like, what? Like, yeah, I'm in the band, right? I'm like, yeah, but I thought you were going to sit with mom. It's like, no. So I had a little, there was like a big neon sign like behind me. So and they had a little kind of induction microphone. So just a little EMF sensor. I'm like, when I point to you, I want you to point that at that neon thing and like kind of like make sounds or whatever. And do you think that would work? And I do it, and it happens once. But then she gets bored because she's on the stage. Like, you pointed at me once, and like you're sitting here with a laptop, like like really like getting into like some micro sound type stuff, and like I'm not waiting again. So I think I had not cut my hair in like 2 years at that point. So like next thing you know, like as I'm trying to like like staring into the abyss of the screen, tiny child pulling on my hair. I think there's a picture where it's like her standing there, like just like hair, like like pulling on it, like trying to braid my hair. And I'm just trying to stick to it because it was just like kind of just like keyboard, like laptop, like so only a laptop. Like it's like, what are you doing? So, oh, that was a fun adventure. And at that point, I think at the end of the show, the promoter of the venue is like, she can play here whenever she wants. Just call ahead. It's like, okay. So, and then of course the pandemic's happened, and I don't think that she's been to a show since because being inside and yeah. Anyway, not to have this entire show about synthesizers being me telling stories about my daughter. So,
So you've got some upcoming events that you're going to be performing.
I do. So a lot of it is similar. I mean, basically still exploring the brainwave stuff. First one is March 9th at Cornell as part of their midday music series. So it's going to be lecture presentation, just kind of talking about, I guess, the ideas of cybernetics and performance, and then also just focusing on. So last semester, I was filling in for a friend of mine on sabbatical and ended up just basically running shop for the electronic music program at Cornell, which was fun. Very, very much, big shoes to fill or whatever. But one of the things I realized at the start of the semester was that for a school that has such alumni as Robert Moog, we actually didn't have a modular system to teach on. So before I started teaching in like pretty much I spent all of last summer building it, as I put it, it's the teaching modular. It's a simple oscillator, a simple filter, a simple envelope, simple whatever, and ended up making 3 of them identical because there's kind of 3 student studios. So to kind of do lecture demonstration on that, lecture demonstration on the brainwave cybernetic stuff, and then also just other instruments that I built because there's also kind of hands-on soldering sessions with the kids. So it's like, this is what we built in class, this is what we learned on, this is what we're doing, and this is how you can make it musical. So that's the one thing. And then March 18th after that, similar vibe, just more and more brainwave stuff, but that's in and also I guess paper delivery, whatever, though it's mostly just me talking, and that's at UMass Lowell on March 18th as part of a festival of electronic music that they've. Oh, the first one was last year at Stonehill College, and now UMass Lowell is taking it up. And I think, Ramon Castillo is the one who's chairing it this year, who does amazing music where he's has turned Minecraft into an instrument. So has programmed this beautiful musical world within Minecraft that actually I think ports to I forget whether it's Max or Ableton, but it's a type of thing where you're actually using the or Minecraft as an interface to then control and make sound. So it's
Wow,
cool.
Sounds
that sounds
cool.
fascinating. That sounds so cool.
I think there's a demo online, same thing, where it's just like, and this is me playing Minecraft with my daughter, but also making music. So
That's so fun. There was a video game, I've mentioned it many times on the show, called Rez, R-E-Z. It was an old, I think, PlayStation 2 game from the late 90s or maybe early 2000s, around there. And it was this cool vector looking 3D game, and and all the music in it were done by uh, DJs at the time, and like every time you would uh, attack a character, it created beats and music. So it was this whole interactive idea of creating music throughout the game as you advance into different levels, and the character would evolve into different vector 3D images. And it is really fun. Primitive nowadays, but it was still fun.
I mean, still cool. I mean, I'm thinking, was it PlayStation 1 that had, I think, was it just like music or something was the name of the game? Well, I mean, it wasn't even a game. It was like a PlayStation sequencer, I think, that had like kind of preloaded samples and like effects or whatever.
Could
I,
be.
sw-
I'm
I
not
swear
sure.
that exists. If
There
not,
was
maybe I don't know.
I think Nintendo DS had a game directly from Korg, which was basically I I never actually played it. I researched it, and then I realized that there was phone apps. I didn't have to buy a Nintendo DS to do it, but it already existed, and it seemed like a lot of fun at the time. And I think you had to use like a stylus with the Nintendo
Mhm.
DS to use it. That looked pretty
I
cool.
think it was an MS10 or MS20, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that makes
yeah.
sense.
I think it was an MS-10, but was it just the instrument, or did it also kind of have like sequencers built in? Like, was it like the Korg MS-10 Rebirth, like Nintendo version or something?
I'm not sure.
Hmm. I never played it. I do know that, for example, the M8, the tracker that I use, like that took a lot of inspiration from all these like I don't know if it was a game, LSDJ, or it was like a program that somebody made. And like once in a while, I've seen people that fall like goes to this device because they are like, oh yeah, it's like the LSDJ, and there was like a lot of people playing music with the Game Boy, like playing live shows and everything. And there was like it's kind of like a cult thing that like a lot of people really like that thing, that they are like the people that is into that is like, oh yeah, let's DJ. And I don't know, I've never seen one, but I know that the tracker took a lot of inspiration from there.
I think Droid Zen uh, in Ecuador uses Nintendo Game Boys like that.
Mhm.
Pretty sure a lot of his music has been he's done a lot of fun videos over the years with using different versions of Game Boys and playing the music and sampling the music and throwing them through loopers and fun stuff like that. Just sounds similar. Pretty
Cool.
great stuff. And the M8 tracker, so Rich uses one. I'm not sure if he's been using it lately, but it's pretty fascinating. I don't know a lot about it myself. It looked really cool when I was first heard about it, and I was really impressed with what Rich was doing it back. I think sometime last year, he and I were hanging out, and we were and that he brought that out to play, and I had a Madra set going on, and he had a bunch of samples loaded in, and and it was pretty cool. I was really fascinated with it. Yeah, so I'm really glad, Pablo, that you're using it. That you used it for the set tonight, and it sounds fantastic. The way that you were able to control it, it's really great.
Thank you. Yeah, I one of the things that I really like and I was kind of impressed is that I don't know, like I've been using it for like whole sets of like an hour, and I don't know, you can just cue songs, so you finish playing your song and then you open the new song, and then like it just you can play continuous sets, which is something that not a lot of devices, especially that size, can handle. because I tried with the OPC, but like I don't know, like I didn't really got very good at like changing the patterns and counting in my head how many bars were the patterns, and sometimes I would get like I don't know, like about that. And with the MA tracker, it was something that I don't know, it just really fitted my like the workflow, and I was just like, oh, it feels very natural. So yeah, really good device.
Fantastic. And Pablo, are you going to be performing, or do you have any events coming up that you would like to announce?
Not really. I mean, like I might do some like something in March, but I haven't set the dates. There is like like I live in Davis, which is like a small city. It's like a college town too, and there was like there is this like it's pretty funny. It's like this alien exhibit, and I played like a couple of weeks ago, and they just have like prompts from like movies, like sci-fi stuff. And then they recently were like, "Hey, do you wanna play again?" So I might play again sometime in March, but I haven't set the dates. But probably I'll just post it on my social media.
Fantastic. And so next month in March, I believe March 15th, we're going to have, of course, Pete going on. We're going to have, so far I have Anthony Regala booked to perform, and he's a singer and also does some compositions. So I actually heard him first on the San Francisco Electronic Music Meetup a couple months ago. And I was really impressed with his work. So we're going to have him on next month. And there's another slot I haven't booked yet. So we'll have someone else come on as well. So we'll figure that out. I'll get that figured out within a month. And then April 15th, which will be a Saturday in April, Piqued is going to be at Mission Synths. And we're going to get a couple of musicians together and maybe a video artist or two put together as well. We're going to have a fun time. And I'm still working with the owners at Mission Synths on setting up the time and all the artists. So I'll be back with more information on that online. But that will be an event we have booked already for April 15th at Mission Synths in San Francisco. So if anyone's in the Bay Area or nearby, please come by. I think a lot of, and Pablo, if you're free April 15th, man, come on down.
Yeah, I need to go to Mission Scenes. Like I've seen that because I'm in like this Discord channel for like left coast lights or something like that. That is like for like
Yes.
electronic musicians, and sometimes I see that you do meetups there and stuff, and I'm like, oh, I gotta go to the next one. But like since I don't really have a car, like planning a trip to the Bay Area is like takes me like the whole day. But yeah, I need to do that because yeah, I've gone to some of the other events that sporadically happens, like I mean like the monthly ones from Frank Martin, and I think I went to a couple of resonance frequencies, and yeah, it's really nice. It's a really solid community, and I would like to go more.
Coming from the guy who's, I think 3,000 miles away, it is a very classy store. Also, it's I think 2 doors down from my favorite bakery in San Francisco. So it's the type of thing where it's like if I go to that block, I'm probably going to spend a couple $100, and it's not all going to be on electronics.
Cool, man. It'd be great to have you there too, Travis.
I need to get out sooner than later. Definitely, it's just first I need to survive the semester.
Absolutely. And there's a little announcement I wanted to let everyone know about. A previous person we had on Piqued back in 2019, Junaid Farouk, who goes by J Stitch, just tracks signed on to a label. And I wanted to give a little shout out and about how awesome that is. And if anyone wants to find out more, you can find out about him on Instagram on J Stitch Music. And I'll put a little link on down there for everyone to check his music out. So hopefully we'll get to hear more about his upcoming releases on some labels, which is really fantastic. So, great job, Junaid. That's fantastic. Excellent. So looks like we're getting on to the evening, and was there any other topics that Pablo or Travis you would like to talk about before we sign off for tonight? Anything that I didn't ask you that you wanted to talk about?
Nothing comes to mind on my end, but then again, it is almost midnight here, so probably nothing's coming to mind in general.
Yeah,
But
I think no, nothing comes to mind either. It was really nice to be on the show, and it's really cool to hear about the stuff that you're also doing, Travis. I'm definitely interested, and I already kind of check the links about your events, and yeah, I wanna learn more about the stuff that you do. That's pretty cool.
feel free to reach out. I mean, I guess, all the plugs or whatever, just checking. Corey, is there just anywhere in the links on, how to contact us or anything like that? Or
Just your Instagram accounts. I believe we have Rich had your Instagram accounts just show up during the sets.
cool.
And,
Yeah.
and
I mean, to any and all, feel free to reach out. I mean, I have yet to get bored talking about electronics and technology and all of that yet. So, I mean, I'll let you know when it finally happens. But in the meantime, I'm happy to chit chat.
Absolutely. And likewise, Pablo, Travis, if you guys ever have anything you want to talk with me about or just say hello, please do send me silly, memes, fun stuff like that. Throw some old quotes at me. If you want to talk about, you know, past relationships, girls have broken their hearts, or The Matrix, please let me know.
Thank you. Same. And yeah, thank you for
Yeah.
organizing this. I really like this show, and it's pretty cool. Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, thanks for having us. This has been a great evening.
Thanks again, Travis, for staying up late. Pablo, thanks for coming on. It's been a treat to have you both on. It's always fascinating to do Pete because I get to reach out to these wonderful musicians in electronic music creating things I would have never thought about, and seeing your perspectives and your thought process and getting to see a little bit about what you're doing. It's always fun to see how we use technology in our own ways. Thanks again, everyone on the stream. It's great to have you all on, and thanks again, and stay home and stay safe. Good night.
Thank you. Hope to see you soon.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Bye.